So this webinar is basically on Redhat JBoss. So in this webinar, we are going to see what is this JBoss is all about, and how Redhat has to do with JBoss. And also we are going to see the various components that are part of this JBoss, and how and why we should be installing JBoss. So it's predominantly more from a non-technical perspective, moving on to a bit of technical perspective, and then we are moving on to the opportunities and the business perspective. That's how I have planned this webinar. So without any delay, let's start with this. So this webinar focuses more on the Red Hat JBoss EAP 7.3. So people who have known this word JBoss, so JBoss is still existing, it's not gone anywhere, but it has changed its profile a bit, and now we are seeing a combination of JBoss with Red Hat. That's what we normally call it as JBoss in the market. Let's see what is that. Yeah. So this is what we are going to see. Basically we are going to go through the JBoss story, how JBoss has evolved from where and now where it is, and we are going to see most of the EAP part. So what is that EAP? Why we need that EAP one? Then we are going to compare the JBoss with WebLogic and WebSphere. It's a very brief comparison. Then I'm going to just tell you how the installation process work and what are the basic components and what are the basic operations that are there. So then we are going to see why we should be using JBoss, and then we are going to learn why we should, then we are going to learn the opportunities that are available with JBoss. Then I'll take up the question and answers. Okay. So this is how it started. So this guy, Mark Fleury, he's actually the founder of JBoss. He is the guy who actually invented the software. So JBoss is not a name, it's an acronym, which stands for Java Bean Open Source Software. In those days, they never had a fancy name. They just gave a name that they thought in their mind. So this is the guy who actually formulated this JBoss application server. So it's a small application server with which he thought he could come up and he could create a middleware component so that he can host applications. And in 1999 is where this particular software was found. Then this software was an open source and a freeware. Now people will have this confusion that open source is freeware. It's not. Open source is different. Freeware is different. Open source means I can view the source. Freeware means you can use it, but there are some conditions for that. So JBoss initially has such kind of conditions. For example, if you see a JBoss software, you can start using the software. Nobody's going to stop you. And you can share that software with others. And you can also view the code, how the JBoss was developed. That's all you can do. What you cannot do is that you take the software, rebrand it, and sell it to some other else. That's against the violation. That's a violation. Then you cannot take the software and rebrand it on your name and circulate it. That's also a violation. So there are certain things that open source software a user of an open source software has to carry out. So for that purpose, they have given a license agreement. Everything will have a license, even open source and freewares. So it goes through an LGPL license agreement, which says all these norms. And that's how the JBoss was initially. Then with more number of people coming in and JBoss becoming famous for some reasons, I'll explain you what is that. JBoss reinvented itself as Wildfly. So if you are a JBoss user, say 10 years back, you'll be using JBoss. Now, and in an intermediate time, I would say people started giving the name as Wildfly. JBoss became Wildfly. So till JBoss 7, it is called as JBoss 7. JBoss 8, it's called as Wildfly 8. They have removed the name JBoss. Or whatever I told you, the complete story is related to a community edition. This JBoss, this Wildfly and all. Meaning what? Community editions basically editions that are formulated by a community. That means not one person will develop this, multiple people will develop it. Like if I'm very familiar with some kind of a topic, I will give that as a project to JBoss community. I will offer it. So anybody can offer a code to JBoss. Somebody will say that no, I can develop a framework for logging. So I will donate it to JBoss. JBoss will accept it and it will incorporate that into your software, and it will be released as a next community edition. So the biggest positivity of the community edition, or the positive aspect of the community edition, is that it's very good. It is free, it is flexible, you can use it, you can do POCs, you can do sandbox environment, you can do testing, whatever you want, you can do it. If you are a gamer, you can use it. If you are a freelancer, you can develop it, whatever you want. That's how the community works. And if you think that I can also add some code to it, yeah, please do it. But when it comes to a real environment, this community edition will not hold good. Reason is that, as I said, community edition, anybody can offer a code, and the same way anybody can stop offering the code. It's about his will and wish. Imagine you are having a software and you have put it onto your production environment. So you have developed your code according to that particular software. In the next release, they have removed a part of the code. Now what happens to your development? Where will you go and find that code? So community editions are not that standard editions for a business critical purpose, but still they are the key players who are actually firing the software. Moving from community edition, what happened was this JBoss was taken over by Red Hat, because Red Hat is a company, you all know that it is more into the infrastructure, Linux machines and all. So what they thought was, why can't we have a middleware umbrella under us? Let's have a create a big umbrella, and now we also add middleware to it. So the first thing they want to include is the application server, which is the key middleware component. So they took over JBoss. They bought JBoss. Buying JBoss doesn't mean that community will get destroyed. It's not like that. The community still exists. But what JBoss, what Red Hat did to JBoss, wherever you see, you'll be able to see this logo. You may not be able to see this logo anymore, because this is what we are interested upon. So what JBoss did, what Red Hat did to JBoss is, Red Hat took JBoss and he said, boss, whatever the code that you give from the community, we are going to standardize it. We are going to stabilize it. And then when everything is good, we will going to give that as a release to the market. And they formulated, or they coined the word called as Enterprise Application Platform, EAP, JBoss EAP. So if somebody asks you, okay, what is the server that you're using in your production? You can't say JBoss. You have to say JBoss EAP, because JBoss is a community edition, EAP is an enterprise edition. You will get support for this. You have an issue, you raise a ticket to your Red Hat, and Red Hat will provide the support for this. But in the community edition, it's not like that. So this is the area that we need to focus more on. Now comparing JBoss with WebSphere. Now obviously you cannot compare JBoss application server with WebLogic or WebSphere. Highly impossible. They are like giants. But yes, you can compare JBoss EAP with WebSphere and WebLogic. Okay, so WebSphere and WebLogic are like two biggest guys in the world. Okay, so they are the kings, two kings of the application server world. And this guy came in, JBoss, and suddenly people started showing more interest on JBoss. There are multiple reasons for this. One of the primary reasons is people will say, no, no, it's cost. No, not cost. If you calculate, almost it's the same. But what is that cutting edge that JBoss gives you, JBoss EAP gives you, which WebSphere and WebLogic doesn't give you? And to add one more point to it, WebSphere and WebLogic has got much more advanced features, much more familiar or user-friendly interfaces. But still, people go to JBoss. Why? Now, the current trend is that it is not about the software that you use or rigidity of the software or the robustness of the software. The current world is all about the flexibility of the software. JBoss EAP is very flexible, meaning you develop an application and you want to install a code, you can do it like this within a minute. Installation process very easy, configuration damn easy, administration very easy, and customization, that's the most easiest part. You can do a customization and create a container and launch it in a container. Done. Whereas with WebSphere and WebLogic, you will have lots of issues and challenges doing it. That means if I want to administrate a WebSphere or WebLogic, I want to have a professional who has around 6 or 7 years of experience on that particular product. With JBoss, hire a guy, teach him JBoss for 1 month, put him on secondary support, and he's ready for primary support in another couple of 3 months. Done. So resource wise, this is very easy. Now moving on to next part. So what about the installation? As I said, if you see here, you can see that there is a installer. That means it is an exe file where you can give next, next, next and install it. And you will also get a zip file, install it, unzip it, you will get the software. Anyways, you can do it. Then you also have a source code. That means you can view the code, how the JBoss has been developed. Now, what are the installation mode that we have got with JBoss? You can install JBoss in GUI mode, console mode, silent mode, and the zip installation, just unzipping it. All the 4 modes you can easily install JBoss. Now, as a component, what does JBoss contain? JBoss EAP contains basically. So at this point of time, it will be very, people who are very new to JBoss, I mean, it may be very technical for you, but I'll try to make this slide as simple as possible. This is like the anatomy of JBoss. Like if there's a human body, you have kidney, heart, lung, legs, and all limbs. So this is something of that sort. The first and foremost thing is that you have a wildfly core. That means that inside your EAP, there is actually a JBoss application server that is sitting. That version is 10.1.2. This version has nothing to do with your EAP version. Okay. So if you rip open JBoss EAP, you will see a JBoss inside that. Okay. Then Undertow. Undertow is a web server which is packaged along with your JBoss. JGroups, Infinispan are components that help you to do clustering in JBoss. IronJackMar is again a third-party component which helps you to do EJB level clustering. Narayana is a transactional software which will help you to do transactions. ActiveMU Artemis, again it is a JBoss product which helps you to do messaging inside JBoss. JBoss logging. This is a component that helps you to used for loggings in JBoss. HAL. HAL is a web console whatever the web console that you see, the admin console, that is HAL. JBoss security, which helps you to provide security concepts to JBoss. Picket box. It's a very a small feature which maintains your vault. That means that if your password and anything is there, it will help you to maintain those passwords securely. And last is your Netty, which is a HTTP based protocol connector. So with all these things together, you will get the JBoss EAP. Everything combined together is your Red Hat JBoss EAP. So these are, like as I said, the parts of the body, JBoss parts of the body. Then there are 2 modes in which you can operate JBoss. One is a standalone mode. Another one is a domain mode. So a standalone mode will have one server, that is one instance of JBoss will be there. That means you get a box, Linux box or Windows box. On that you install JBoss and you start your JBoss, you'll get one instance of JBoss. That means when you check the process, there'll be one Java process, JBoss process that will be running. The same JBoss process will be used to deploy your application and also host the admin console application. Then domain mode. Domain mode is where one JBoss server can manage another JBoss server. In standalone mode, it is not possible. So here I have host A, host B, and host C. So host A server, which is called as a domain controller, that can manage the other servers inside your JBoss. So this is more on to a hierarchical level. If you want to create a huge hierarchy of servers and JBoss, you can go to domain mode. Then, simple question, why should I go for JBoss EAP? Open source and freeware. As I was saying, it is open source, it's freeware, you can download it, you can install it, you can use it. As you start using more, you get familiarized with the software, and then you can use the software for packaging. You can use it for your POCs, you can use it for your sandbox environment, and if you like it, you can preferably recommend it to your organization to implement in the production. Okay, flexibility of usage. So I can take the software, rip this software apart, add my application onto it, repackage it, then I can deliver it as a packaged application. Possible. Flexible operations. As I said, you have two different modes of operations. It is very easy for you to maintain those servers, stopping and starting, but it's very easy. No, no constraints and all. You can use it with multiple modes. Fast footprint. The moment you start JBoss, it will get started within seconds. Because why? What takes a server to start late, or what takes the server to start earlier? If you have more services running on the server, it will take time to start. If less services are running, it will take less time to start. Obvious. But what if I have more services but still have to start very fast? Then we are going for a concept called as on-demand services, where when you start your application, when you start your server, depending upon the application needs, it will load the classes or load the services only for that application demands. Whatever the application demands, only it will load. In the future, maybe after a couple of hours, if any other services are required, then it will load that service. It will not load all the services together. So which makes JBoss to have a very faster footprint. Easy to migrate. Say if I have a WebSphere and I want to migrate JBoss, you can recreate it. Upgrade is also very easy. Now, very key point, no licensing, only subscription. There's a difference between licensing and subscription. Licensing means I take up a software and I'm paying for that software, and I am paying for the usage of that particular software. License subscription is different. Subscription is something that, boss, I'm going to use the software for 1 year. I'll pay you an amount. What are the bugs that comes in? What are the issues that comes in? I will just raise a service request for that. I can get an answer for that. Say for example, I am getting first let me talk about the licensing part. That makes you to understand subscription easy. If I buy a product, say version 1, then I have got a license for that. I start using it. Now I want to migrate to second version, that is version 1 to version 2. Again I have to buy licensing for version 2. Okay, whereas in JBoss it's simpler. I buy a subscription for 3 years. So now I'm using JBoss EAP 6 in the first year. In the second year I'm using JBoss EAP 7. I have upgraded it, no charge, free. Again I'm going for JBoss 8, no charge, free. So I have bought a subscription for 3 years. For 3 years JBoss will give me support, irrespective of whatever the versions that you're using. That is more advantageous for an organization because they can very well play with the software and its upgrades. There's no constraint. No, we have to hold this because you have already paid it for that. No, that kind of funda will happen. Then, as usual, excellent support from Redhat, as they were delivering for their operating system. They do a beautiful support for their uh, products also, JBoss also. Now, this is the most important and biggest question. Why should you learn JBoss? Okay, why this webinar is being conducted? Why I am talking, you are listening. So, if you ask me 5 or 6 years back, there was a huge funda for a fan base for WebLogic and WebSphere. Every company used to say that no, either install WebSphere or WebLogic, depending upon the budget they have got. Now, with new people coming into market, new brains coming into the DevOps and other stuffs, people see citing those softwares are creating a hindrance for the development purpose. I'm not saying they are bad. They're obviously good. They're fantastic. But the ease of working with that is becoming more and more difficult. Why it is becoming difficult? It is not the product is making it difficult, because there are easier products than that, like Tomcat and JBoss. So what JBoss is doing is that JBoss is actually making people to use more and more of it. When you say more people are using it, that means the the requirement for the support engineers, the requirement for the build engineers will be also more. That means there are more job opportunities for JBoss than other products. One of the key features is that it is easy to learn and scale up. As I was saying before, if we want to train WebSphere, okay, I will train you WebSphere. I will train you WebLogic. I will train you JBoss. So the training period would be different for the products. Let's say on average 2 months of training you have attended. After this 2 months of training, how fast you can scale up? That is the question. With WebSphere, I would say at least it will take 3 to 4 months to scale up in WebSphere environment. WebLogic also is very similar, but in JBoss, it is very easy. In 1 month, you can scale up. You can go to an organization without knowing anything. By the time they create your user ID and passwords, you go to a training, get trained, you get familiarized with the product. Then you get your user ID, passwords, and other client requirements and all. By the time you go and sit in front of your system, you will able to know what is there. That means you can understand when they talk to you in the JBoss language. When they say what is the mode that they are using, you can easily understand, okay, they are talking about standalone or domain mode. When they say, did you start your say service or you start your instances, you will be able to understand, okay, they are talking about JBoss server and they are talking about this configuration, that configuration. That is more important for you. The most important thing is that when you go and sit in front of your desk, you should understand what the other guy says. Forget about your whether you're working with the JBoss or WebSphere or any other product. First of all, the other guy whatever says, that you should be able to understand. You should not put a question mark face in front of that guy. So in that perspective, JBoss is easy, and JBoss you can easily scale up. So this is one of the key parts, I would say. With JBoss coming in, every engineer thought it is easy to learn, and it is also easy to learn, and they learned it. So they had a thought process, it was successful, and they start learning JBoss and they learn JBoss. But the catch is, see, products like WebSphere, WebLogic, and other stuffs, they have created to such a level that everything is foolproofed. That means that everything is documented, everything is there, and you click something, something comes up, and everything is there. But with JBoss, it is not like that. The more you start using it, the more the expert you become. In that case, the number of experts in JBoss are actually less. For example, if I ask you to migrate a server from WebSphere to WebLogic, you will go to WebLogic site or you raise a ticket with Oracle. They will give you the exact procedure to migrate WebSphere to WebLogic. It is just WebLogic you are a WebLogic admin. You will start migrating it. But in WebSphere, from WebSphere to JBoss is very difficult. Why? Everybody knows how to administrate JBoss because it's an easy work. They started working on it, but the level of degree they have to improve on their own. You have to compare the architecture of one product and superimpose that on the other product. For that, the degree of knowledge on JBoss is very less in the market. If somebody can gain that, then he has got a very bright future. Forget about future, he will get a very good salary. Ah, so the effect of that is many implementation projects are there in JBoss in the market. We don't have people to do that. So now what organizations are doing is that due to this pandemic and also due to the initial cost cutting measures, they started training people from WebSphere, WebLogic and other products into JBoss, and they are trying to implement the project. Now you can train and you can implement it, but the knowledge that requires to a higher degree of knowledge to implement the project, that is very less now, and the projects are more. The demand for skilled engineers in JBoss is also very less. Many implementations projects are available now. Wherever I see an implementation project or I see a migration project from a higher software to JBoss software. Yeah, the migration. So new implementations and the migrations. So which eventually all these things will end up to a better job market. So if you are a good qualified person in JBoss with a very good understanding on the product, you need not have to excel it, at least have a very good understanding on the project. Your job market is always open for this. And at least for next 10 years, JBoss will rule the application server market because of its cost, support, and flexibility. So that's all from my side. So now I uh, just walk you to the course content. So what MindMajix offers you is these course contents. So it's a 15 hours, 15 session course. So each session has 15 different topics. Each topic may range up to 1 to 2 days max, some to 3 days. So these, if you understand this 15 chapters, the expectation is that you will be able to understand the first thing. I always believe in that. First, you should have a good understanding. That means when somebody converse with you in terms of the JBoss language, you should be able to understand that. That is assured. Number two, you'll be able to perform the basic installation, basic troubleshooting, and basic configuration. Number three, you will be able to understand what the peripheral software is. For example, you go into a company, okay, the moment you enter in, nobody will ask you, come on, sit and install JBoss. No, they'll not do that. So we have added certain other parts of the course, which is not listed in this course content, is that how the basically a team works, a middleware team or a JBoss team works. So these three are the things that we assure you. That means the familiarity with the product, the basic understanding of the product, and the peripheral components that are going to be that you will be encountering in any of the organization. And we'll be offering you a custom course content, live session recordings, and 3 assignments. If you're able to do these 3 assignments, I'll be able to assure you that yes, you'll be able to go and sit in an organization and start working. So this is the course content, and it will range up to 3.5 to 4 weeks. That means approximately a month. That's how the course would be. So now I'm open to question and answers. You can start. Somebody muted everybody or something? No questions. Sai, you there? Hello?
This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, who's recording the conference here? Yeah, hey, open. You can talk. It's not that you have to ping me. Okay, cost. Cost is something that you need to deal with Sai, and I'll take up the technical questions. JBoss works on particularly in Java language. See, JBoss helps you to deploy applications which are made of Java. That means you can host and you can run only Java applications. Others, cloud computing is entirely different. Cloud computing is different. Hosting is different. Cloud computing refers to the infrastructure that it holds. Refers to the application that is going to host. So cloud is entirely different. This is entirely different. You can use JBoss on a cloud environment. what really is JBoss? Okay, it's an application server. You have an application, you have to run it. So only your application runs, you'll be able to access the application. So who will run the application? Some engine has to be there, right? That powering engine is JBoss. Any up No, I'm not getting your question. Any applications can we know means? Can you please rephrase the question, Kaushik? Up, yeah, as I said, JBoss is an application server that you have. WebSphere is an application server. WebLogic is an application server. There are many application servers in the market. Name to use for? No. You actually your sentence is breaking. Can you come? I mean, can you come through audio? Okay, okay.